We made the move there on Tuesday. 3 separate moves in succession to make that all happen. So once we knew that, I kind of felt it would be, barring something completely unforeseen and a little bit outside the box, knew that this would probably be fairly light in terms of activity later in the week here.
Pretty rare that a team in the top 5 makes this much change to its roster kind of on the fly. At what point did you realize that you needed to make this many changes?
I never set out, Luke, to try to make a lot of changes. I think it was just more trying to identify what we needed, address that, and then further address what were going to be the impacts of that relative to the salary cap, player injury statuses, and different things of that nature. So in a perfect year, I think you would go in and feel you didn't have to do anything. But in this era where the cap isn't really grown, you take the summer, you try to address things as best possible, and then you take the first 40 games and really try to measure where you're at and take as much time. I do have a lot of faith in what I've seen from the players when they're outside of the lens of the public and we're together, that they could handle bringing some new guys in. And one of the new guys has been here before and knows a lot of the staff, and I think has a reputation as one of the better character quality people in hockey. And so they've kind of come in, and both in terms of how they fit in and how they played so far have all seemed to have settled in quickly. But there's always going to be some rocky steps and games when you're so new to an organization. But as we got past those moves on Tuesday, it became, okay, do we want to further? The chemistry part did come into focus a little bit more in terms of wanting to say, okay, now we have to let it settle and let these guys roll. We've addressed what we think they need. Now let's let them and the coaches get to work.
One position you didn't really address was goaltending. Are you comfortable, I guess you are comfortable with your goaltending going forward. How do you view that position and where it fits?
Yeah, the way I view the position is this. I think I've in going back to previous availabilities, I'm very confident in our goaltenders. Ilya has come in. The things we're looking for from him would be how would he respond when things weren't going well, and how would he recover when he got into bad stretches, like any young goaltender. And he's done an excellent job of that. Especially, he had that stretch mid-December. He bounced back strong in January, and then if he's had any games where he struggled, he's right away been able to stop that and get it rolling the other way. So he's with him. We've been very happy with Matt Murray's health. Obviously, he's been out now for just over a month, and now he's on his way back. And then Joe Woll has been one of the, he's an all-star in the American Hockey League, and has come in here and played well in the games he's played for us as well. So we're very comfortable with the 3, and then we have Eric Shelgren as well, who ended last year as our backup. So when looking at it, I think the question is, how confident are you that they can do it in the end and pull through? And I think Matt has done it in the past, and there weren't really other guys available that have, and we believe in the potential of Ilya and Joe both. So we'll get Matt healthy and get him rolling, and let the 3 of them continue to move it in the right direction.
What do you like about Shannon Gustafson, and why do you feel you could part with Rasmus?
First on Shannon Gustafson, I think we. When tied to the Rasmus deal, it was either get the first-round pick and then get a secondary piece of draft capital, which I then felt we would have to take in, given where our farm system is at on D. And we've got Niemela, but he's in Europe, and we hope to have a long playoff run with Karpat. You don't really have guys flush with that ability offensively and on the power play. So rather than leave ourselves hanging there, it was, okay, we can get Gustafson in the deal, who's probably going to cost us more than the pick we're going to get back anyway. So that was, and just with his form this year with Washington, we felt that would be a good move for us to make, have him come in once he gets settled in. We know he's, in his career, has been excellent on the power play, excellent offensive defenseman, and has taken steps defensively throughout his time in the NHL. So we were excited to get him in here. We've talked about him in the summers, and Sheldon, the coaching staff, have talked about him throughout. So that just made sense to tie off the depth part, in addition to getting the draft capital in that deal. And then on the Shen side of it, it was, in wanting to allocate our roster slots, what did we lack? And we just felt on the back end, having that one more size and strength physical defender, who's been through it before, has that experience, was going to be really important for us. So when those two things kind of all lined up in conjunction with the Pierre part of it, which allowed us to fit cap-wise and returning a draft pick there, that was what I felt would be best for our depth overall. With regards to Rasmus, he's been a part of the organization for nearly 5 years, and then as we kind of just went through it here, just felt that the draft capital coming back was going to be something that we could use to either add a higher end prospect to our system in June in Nashville, or survey what the market's going to be as we get into June in terms of trade, and we felt that was important for where we were at right now and where our roster was going to be. And that was the decision making that went into it.
How do you see it?
Sorry. What's that? Oh, go ahead.
Why do you think that so many of the deals were done early?
I don't know. I can only speak for ourselves, which was, when I got the sense that St. Louis, they had already acted. They had moved Tarasenko, and that they were wanting to move quickly. So we had to, I could see why, because Doug had quite a number of different deals that he was attempting to do, and then that allowed him, I think, to address some of the separate acquisitions that he made with Pittsburgh and Detroit to kind of retool it quickly there in St. Louis. So he had kind of wanted to move, and so that deal came together 2 weeks ago today now, and then it just seemed that I always think that the more you can the longer you can have these guys in here, the better value. Even if it's just a game or 2 or 3 or 4, helps them come in and get together faster and roll.
So you think about the idea of carrying 9 D-men all NHL level, and
Yep.
is there some drawbacks to that?
Yeah.
Not Sheldon to make this all work?
I think the way I look at it, Luke, is we see on Wednesday night, Liljegren takes a bit of a knock, and this year, and whether it's a bit of a bias and a recency bias on my end, we had a stretch this year in late November where we were, I think we were 5 or 6. We were the only 2. We had Gio and Hall, Justin Hall, who played each night. The rest were really testing our depth. So we've had some arduous times in terms of who's been available for our D, and I'd rather have the guys and sort through a little bit of competition. I don't think the competition hurts them in terms of having to be at your best every night, and that pressure, I think, will set us up for what we're going to encounter come playoff time in terms of what's expected each night. So exerting that onto the group is never a bad thing. I'll work closely with Sheldon. I don't think it just falls on Sheldon to manage it. I have to help him and be very clear in communication with the players and what's expected of them and how they're supposed to handle different things. Connor Timmins is one of the 9, and he's been a guy that we've committed to long term, but because of injury situation, he's missed a lot of training in each of the last 2 or 3 summers. So we can continue to ramp that up for him and set him up best in the long run as well, which we think is important. And obviously we've committed to him for the next two seasons as well. So he's going to be a part of it here in the long run, and we want to do right by him. We'll also continue to get him some game action. So the roster limit raises today, so we'll be able to bring in, we've got the cap space to bring in a 13th forward if we want as well. And you never want to be in that situation with a 1 too many, but you definitely don't want to be in the situation with 1 too few. And
The team is different now from where it was just a year.
I think Jonas I think it's easy for me to say, but I think the game last night in the third period sort of exemplifies the difference of the team. Just a little bit more competitive, a little bit more sacrifice, willing to put themselves on the line to win pucks, do the right things defensively that aren't necessarily the fanciest or the sexiest things in the game, but they contribute to winning. And I just sense that, with the players that we've added and also with the growth of some of the guys internally, we're just far better in that realm. It's probably something that the players and the coaching staff can give you better insights than me, because they're the ones on the bench and living it. But that's, from my view, from up top, what I see as a difference in them.
Despite all the changes, Kyle, so much is going to still fall on the core guys. I'm
Mhm.
just wanting your perspective on Austin's season and why
Yeah.
the offense you think maybe hasn't played as much as in the past.
Well, I think he's been. I think, as everyone knows, he's played through some injuries and things that have hampered him. but in terms of his impact on the game and the way that he's helped our team, we're obviously I'm very happy with the season that he's had, how he's competed and battled defensively, the growth that he's taken as an overall player. It's all been very, very good. And if this is a down season for him offensively, that's a really good sign in terms of how great a player that he is, and the other guys in the group have all stepped up, and that's why you commit to that core group. Is they when one isn't at the level that they expect in one specific area, the others tend to step up and help them. And it's like any team, it's not just ours. When you're talking about the playoffs, it's gonna come down to everyone executing their role. And when you're in that core role, whether you're a forward or a defenseman, it's going to be making plays or making stops when it's harder to do so. And I think they're at that stage where they're all going to take that step.
How was the GM to balance the field in the room and the chemistry there, and wanting to make a lot of moves and shuffling things around and not tweaking that too much?
I think I have to be around the group a lot, have a sense for what they can handle, a sense for guys that are central and core to the group. You're always tentative with somebody from the outside. They may a fan, or you guys are all around the team more, so it's maybe someone where we go into their city and play them once. They see the group and they might think that someone is just on the periphery of it. But when you live it every day and the way they practice play, they can be a core part of it and really help to drive the team, pick the team up when the energy sags, when you're going through a longer stretch. And for me, it's just a matter of being around, measuring that, knowing what's important, knowing how different guys impact the team, knowing what their contributions are off the ice, and then knowing what we can handle in terms of coming in, and then really relying on our personnel department and different people throughout the game to know who the people we're bringing in and what they're about, what their work ethic is like, how they treat the staff. Really relying on that, especially when we brought in 6 new guys now. But the feedback on all of them has been exemplary in terms of who they are as people, and that combined with the group that we have, and I think more than ever the group's focus is on winning, and anyone that can help them win, they're going to bring in with open arms.
Given like the third period last night, all the moves you've made, the health status of Austin and whatever has bothered him this year. Now that the deadline's settled, you've seen what everyone else has done, you've seen what Boston, the kind of season Boston has put together. How do you view this team in the context of first round matchup and the general conference and everything you want to achieve?
Yeah, I think the goal of the team is to win, and I think we've tried to set ourselves up as best possible to give ourselves as good a chance against whomever we contest. And for one, it's clinching our spot and making sure we're in, and then getting ourselves ready for whoever that opponent is. I know that what the numbers say, and with regards to probabilities, that it's going to be one team, and so if it is Tampa, we've played them last year. They're a championship organization every day, so we know how hard it's going to be. The easiest way to put it is hard things are hard, and so what we're about to try to do is going to be extremely difficult, and we have to ready ourselves each day leading into that to clinch our spot and then be ready for what's ahead. It's a tough road, and we know that, but I think knowing that is important for our group, and we need that because we have to show that we can overcome that, and we have to push through, and that's what's going to lead us to get to where we really want to go to.
Has Matt had a setback at all, like
No.
a date in mind for?
No, he's gonna go at it here today and fully, and I think we'll be, that following that, it'll be up to Sheldon, the coaches, in terms of once he gets clearance from the medical staff when he wants to roll. But I don't anticipate it being long now.
Kyle, you've been at this job for a long time now. What's it like to actually get a deal over the line? Like, what are those feelings like on a day like today, everything's finally done?
Yeah, it's a bit of relief when it's all done. There have been times, like when I was with the assistant GM, and then now in this is my 9th year going through this, where you often have a little bit of apprehension that things may not get across, or they don't, and that's not a good feeling. And maybe that's to answer one of the previous questions about timing and wanting to get things done earlier. Maybe that's one of the things that propels you. That's one of the key parts to it. But it's a good feeling when you get it done, and then immediately in this job, as soon as you get something done, frankly turns to anxiety about how it's all going to fit together and work, and then you get to deal with that. So it never really ends, but we have a great staff, and the players are a great group, and I think this is the year we have to put it all together and get rolling. We've tried to arm them to do so.
I know it's been a short period of time, but what's your perspective on the impact of Riley as an ace is coming in?
I think there's two ways to phrase it. There's the off-ice impact that he's made, which I think has been significant. He's come right in, fit in seamlessly, and his habits, the way he prepares, the way he practices, were notorious before he arrived, and everything he's done since has backed that up. But on the ice, I think obviously he's produced right off the bat, but then I think more importantly than the production, it's the way that he plays. And no matter who we're playing against or what time it is, he's doing everything the exact way I think you have to play when you really want to win. So it's not always stuff that stands out on TV or even on film, but he's above his man all the time when they're trying to leave the zone, so it prevents the other team from breaking out clean a lot of the time. His stick details and forecheck, how strong he is on the puck, things that for me over time in this job have stood out time and again in the playoffs as vitally important. He does them all to the ultimate degree every time he's on the ice, and he's done that already, and you can see that starting to impact some of the other players on the team. So he's been everything that we thought when we acquired him, and everything Doug Armstrong said he was, and anyone who's had him before said he was, and he's the reason why he has the individual accolades that he's had, and the reason why he's won before, and he shows it every day.
You said that there's some anxiety about how it's all going to fit together.
Oh, I think every time. Yeah, it's not just this time.
So
Yeah.
now you've done all of that. How do when you look at his team, what do you worry about?
Well, I think it's the thing about hockey or any form of athletics is that there's a massive amount of variance and luck that's involved, and different things that play a huge role in the fortunes of your team each and every year. So especially in a playoff series, especially in a lower scoring sport, those things always loom, and you can't control them. So it's trying to do every single thing you can in preparation to give yourself the best chances possible, knowing that is going to loom over it in the end. And you hope that when the coin flips at times on certain events in the game where it does, that this game and this year is the time that it lands in your favor, while controlling all that you can control. So I think that's just part of the profession and part of the job, is that it comes with, I don't know anybody that doesn't come with a great deal of anxiety too, in terms of worrying each day about the group and how it's fitting together, and every single part of it. It's a job that whether you want to or not, you live. You don't just come and do it and then go home and drop it. You live it. It's part of everything that you do, and I think that with the group here, I'm very fortunate with Brandon Pridham and our staff to have a great support group and people who are excellent at their jobs to help me. And now it's just a matter of trying to put this all together for them so we can have success. Yeah, perfect.
Sorry, just one
Yeah.
more on the Zohorna.
Yeah.
What was the catalyst behind that? Like, where are you getting?
Yeah, so the catalyst behind it, David, was simply he'll add to our center depth. Certainly he's a bigger body down the middle for us, which we can add. And then, our scouting staff thought he played very well for Calgary in the minors in particular. He kind of bounced around there at the beginning of the year. Pittsburgh claimed on waivers by Calgary, then sent down by Calgary. So they had really thought that he's played well in the American League for Calgary. And then the other part of it is, so we kind of had an excess on wing, and you're always worried that you're never going to have enough centers or D or goalies. So for us, it was being able to add a center to the mix, who's a non-veteran in the American League, because that'll help the Marlies as well, because we'd like them to win as well. They're in first place right now, and they've had a great season. Ryan Hardy and Greg Moore and the staff have done a great job, and Logan Shaw has led the team on the ice. So trying to just balance it out there and reduce the friction and reduce the number of veterans. I mean, having done that job before. I'm a little more cognizant of it and wanting to do right by them and make it right by them. So it also gives Dryden Hunt a better opportunity elsewhere. He's bounced around a little bit this year, so get him closer to home and give him a chance to perhaps roll there. Perfect. Hey, thanks everybody. We'll see you again.
Thank you.
Guy at home has no idea.
No, I know. I'm not complaining. Now I've got to go along and go get my iPad. Coyotes PR, first trade in NHL trade deadline.